nothing new to be discovered. So they're kind of looking at it's in a different place. Right. few more minutes. Control people out right now. Yeah. Job is to get everybody. Let's go.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Loftus. I'm the Director of Communications for the Washington State Patrol. That's CHRIS, L as in Larry, O, F as in Frank, T as in Tom, I, S as in Sam. And again, I'm the Director of Communications. Behind me is Captain Ron Mead. He is the commander here for District 2, which is King County. For those of you who don't know, we have 8 geographic districts across the state, and District 2 is King County alone. It's the only one that is one county alone. We're here to discuss last night. I'm going to give you kind of a readout of what happened and a timeline. We have some new information. A lot of the things that I'll be reading out to you, you already have. First off, though, I want to say this meets the definition of an active shooter and a mass shooting event. The only difference from this and other events that we see across the country in schools and parks and so forth is the area of the shooting was not confined to a very specific place or location. So we treat it as such. We treat it as an active shooter and as a mass shooting event. I guess one message I want to deliver is that our area, our state, we're not immune to these sorts of things. You see this around the country. Just because we live in a beautiful area, just because our economy is strong, just because we're a friendly folks here in the Great Northwest, that does not insulate us from tragedy, doesn't insulate us from the challenges that we're seeing as a society. I'm going to go over the events from last night. Captain Mead will have a few remarks. I'll then come back with some statistics, giving you some comparisons, some numbers for the numbers of statewide shootings so far this year and how it compares to years prior. Last night, September 2nd, 2024, at 8:26 p.m., northbound I-5 and State Road 18, a white Volvo fired several rounds, striking the passenger of a car. The driver took 320th exit and contacted a fire station. The female passenger was transported to Harborview and is still in critical condition. At the same date, just a few minutes later at 8:42 p.m., I-5 near MLK, Martin Luther King, the victim reported being shot at but had no description of the suspect vehicle. Passenger sustained abrasions from broken glass. Then just 1 minute later, northbound I-5 south of I-90, a victim reported being shot at by an unknown vehicle and sustained a grazing wound to the leg and was transported to Harborview as a precaution. So that was the first spasm of violence that we saw, starting at 8:26 to 8:43. So just in those few, about that 15-minute time frame, we saw the first spasm of violence, and we had the one report that was specific to the white Volvo. A couple of hours later, at 10:57, southbound I-5 near State Road 18, we began another spasm of violence where there were 3 shootings reported. Victims reported being shot at by a white Volvo, again, similar to what we heard in the earlier time frame. The driver and the passenger sustained non-life-threatening wounds to the legs and have since been released from the hospital. I believe they went to Valley Medical. 1 minute after that, so at 10:58, we got the report of southbound I-5 near South 375th. Victim reported being shot at by a white Volvo again, following the same description of the vehicles we had heard before. No injuries, but broken windows. I believe both windows on the front were broken out. The second spasm of violence continued at 11:01, so just 3 minutes later. Southbound I-5 near 54th in Pierce County, the victim reported being shot at by a white Volvo. The victim was struck in the neck and transported to the hospital, and they are currently at St. Joseph's Hospital. Now, once it moved into Pierce County, that is our District 1, which includes Pierce and Thurston counties, but of course we're always in constant coordination with them. Something that's new that has not been reported, that's just happened here recently, another victim has come forward and called today after seeing news coverage, so we appreciate the way that you've gotten the word out across the state and the region. After seeing news coverage, the victim will be coming back to Bellevue. They were, in the area of South 320th around the time of the other shootings. They kept going. They didn't realize their car had been shot. But when they got to Portland, which was their next destination, they heard the news accounts and realized that they may have been involved in this situation. So they're coming back in today, and we'll be talking to our detectives, and we will be able to verify the timeline and to see if they were part of this entire situation. No injuries were reported in that. We would like to encourage other folks who may have been in this area last night during these time frames. If you saw something, call. Same thing as the folks in Portland. You get home, you see bullet holes in your car, your RV, your boat, whatever it is, the trailer you were pulling, anything of that nature. Please give us a call. The more information we have, the more specifics we have, the faster we're going to be able to come to some conclusions in this investigation. And with that said, we will not be making speculations about the suspect. We will not be making speculations about their mental state. We won't be making any sort of speculative announcements in that regard. We're not in the speculation business. We're in the investigation business. And so the investigations are ongoing. Shortly after midnight last night, so today, September 3rd, the suspect and the vehicle were located in Fircrest. The University Place Police Department, the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, Lakewood Police Department, Puyallup Police Department, Tacoma Police Department, and Fircrest Police Department were instrumental in taking the suspect into custody without incident. The suspect was cleared medically at the hospital and was subsequently booked into the King County Jail. Speaking for Chief Batiste, I was just on the phone with him just a few moments ago, and he would like to thank our partners in service at the agencies that I just mentioned. And again, Fircrest, University Place, Lakewood, Puyallup, Tacoma, and Pierce County Sheriff's Office. We are all in this together, not just as law enforcement in response, but as a community. We're all in this together. We all travel the roads. We all have the right to go home safely every night. We all have the right to go to work safely each day. Whether you're in law enforcement, first response, or the media, or taking your kids to school, whatever it is, the roadways are not a platform for people's grievances. They're not a platform for people's arguments. They're not a platform for violent expression. They are simply designed to get you and your loved ones from here to there safely. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Meade for comments.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your presence here today. What we saw last night, really reminiscent of last December 6th, when we saw another spat of freeway violence, that I think we can universally agree is unacceptable in a modern society. Having people leave a place intending to get to another place and doing so safely is something that each of us should come to expect as a matter of just living in a civilized society. And the fact that somebody intent on creating harm and mayhem to others that were merely driving down the freeway trying to get someplace, I think we can all agree, hopefully, is unacceptable. I do want to acknowledge the tireless efforts of those troopers, deputies, officers that were involved in the response to each of these situations. In at least one case, rendering aid by use of tourniquets on 2 victims of these shootings. and the rapidness in which the suspect was identified and arrested without incident. The job of a police officer today is difficult. It's always been difficult. But the prevalence of random violence like we saw last night on our freeway system and in society in general should be alarming to everybody. The difficulty that we have in keeping our roads safe is difficult enough just from the standard person that's distracted or driving impaired or though he's driving unsafely. But add into this latest component that, while not necessarily new, is becoming alarming both in the frequency of it and in how often it's occurring. Having one freeway shooting is one too many. Having 7 perpetrated by one individual over a short period of time only causes a lessening of people's trust in our transportation system, which they should feel safe in using. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
Do you believe that this person may be wanted or is suspected in any other seemingly random shootings on interstates or freeways?
So it will remain a part of the investigation moving forward. We have no indication at this point, but I do think it's important to caveat everything that we're saying here today. This is the best information as we know it now. We have detectives who are going to work around the clock to bring this individual, hold him accountable for his criminal conduct, and that work's not going to stop just because he's in jail. That work will continue trying to identify a reason and a motive and anything that we can do to help the prosecutors prosecute this case and hold this individual accountable. But as of right now, we have no information to suggest that.
And any indication this person was spraying bullets? I mean, we've seen the prevalence of these like auto sear switches or whatever they're calling them. But is this multiple rounds being fired in a burst, or is it single rounds?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. That remains a part of the investigation, and will continue to be a part of that investigation.
Is it the understanding right now that these victims in these cars were randomly targeted, or is there anything to suggest that there was some sort of connection between the suspects?
There's absolutely no reason to suggest these were anything but innocent people driving down the road trying to get from point A to point B, and for whatever reason became the victims of this unwarranted, unprovoked attack. And really it is an attack. It's not just an attack on those individuals, it's really an attack on everybody, because any one of us could have been that unwitting victim simply trying to drive down the interstate, trying to get home from work, trying to get to work, trying to get home from the airport or to the airport, whatever reason they're on the freeway. This is an attack not only on those innocent victims, but really on all of us as a society, because it creates a fear in our transportation system that is unacceptable. People shouldn't fear driving on the freeway on an interstate, and now that this is the second time in less than a year where we've seen a mass shooting, it should be alarming to everybody.
Do you have any information at this point as to any sort of prior criminal record that the suspect may have?
We're not. I think everybody has the suspect's name, and it's available. By virtue of the fact that I'm not going to acknowledge the name, I'm not going to give that credibility for the mayhem he created. You all have it, but the answer to the end, I don't know the answer to that. But I'm not going to give his name, nor are we going to give his name.
Was the weapon recovered?
That remains a part of the investigation.
Has he said anything about a motive of why he did this?
That it would be speculative, and as Mr. Loftus said, we're not going to get into the speculation business. We're going to give you everything we know for certain, but that would be a speculative at this stage, and it's going to serve no purpose.
I believe you said 7 instances of shooting. We had 5 that we reported, and then you reported a 6th victim. Where is the 7th?
The 7th is the one that came forward after. We've not yet had contact other by phone. He was the gentleman that was driving southbound, ended up in Portland, and
So he was the 6th. 6 shootings, 4 victims?
We only know of 6. Where is the 7th?
so the 7th is the one that's come forward since.
So what is the 6th?
Remember I said there was a spasm of 3 and 3, and so we had the first 3 and then the second 3. Again, 826, 842, and 843 were the were the first three. That was at northbound I-5 and State Road 18 at 826, northbound I-5 near MLK at 842, northbound I-5 south of I-90 at 843, and then the second wave was at 1057 southbound I-5 State Road 18, 1058 southbound I-5 south 375th, and then at 1101 southbound I-5 near 54th. That's the one that was in Pierce County. So it was 3 and 3, and then we had the seventh call in from Portland.
7 victims.
7.
And then are you aware of any other agency making prior contact with him yesterday, earlier in the day at all?
We're early on in the in the investigation, so just don't have that information for you at this point.
And then how quickly after that first shooting were dispatch or investigators able to kind of realize that we may be dealing with one individual here? And how does that change things?
Well, it changed it dramatically. But the challenge is, so the first incident, we had a vehicle description as a white Volvo. That was it. It wasn't until the second volley of that 3 or 4 minute period that somebody got a description with an associated plate with the Volvo matched that description. So
now you're attributing all 6 of these incidents to this.
we're attributing only those that saw the white Volvo and identified the white Volvo. Anything else is speculative. And while I think it's important to caveat that while the timing certainly would suggest that all of these are related, we're only going to be able to connect what we can connect through physical evidence, later ballistics examination, and that sort. But right now, we just have 4 victims that can describe this white Volvo or a white passenger car. Beyond that is speculative, and that's why we will do the investigation to make sure that we can tie them to the additional shootings.
So at this point, you're not ruling out the possibility that there could be additional people involved.
Not only can I not rule it out, I mean, our hope is that anybody that believes they were a victim that comes forward. We've learned from experience that oftentimes it's through these press releases and press conferences that people will have recalled something being suspicious, a suspicious noise, a suspicious sound, a suspicious vehicle, and then get home only to find a bullet hole in their car or something else. So not only do we want people, we are encouraging people to come forward if they believe they were somehow associated with this. No matter how minute it is, we want to hear from people whether they were involved or not.
Can you give us details about, you had the plate number in the car description, and then he was arrested in Furcrest. How'd you get from there to there arresting him?
Well, the vehicle was spotted by, I believe, an officer from the Furcrest or University Place Police Department, because the BOLA was, the Be on the Lookout for was broadcast to local agencies, both in King and Pierce counties. And so it was through that alert officer in the field that just happened to see the vehicle from an alert that had been broadcast throughout the 2 counties, and probably beyond. I mean, that violent criminals like this, particularly the ones that are using an interstate, and we know or believe at one point went north, at least into Seattle and then back south. We're a very fluid society, and so we want to make sure that that information is shared as widely as humanly possible, hoping for the good outcome we had in identifying the vehicle as quickly as we did and being able to get it stopped and the suspect into custody without incident.
We saw body cam footage this morning. Is that the conclusion of a traffic stop, or how did they get to that location?
So I believe are you talking about the Pierce County video footage? That's an issue. Pierce County's released that. I know that we will include that in our release as well, but I don't have the specifics. I would refer you to those agencies that were involved in that.
So was it a victim or another driver on the road that got the suspect plate?
Yeah, somebody, I don't know if it was a victim or a witness, but we were provided with a plate that is associated with the suspect vehicle. That
I know you don't do the charging, but are you requesting certain charges, or what could a person like this be charged with?
Well, I'll leave that to the prosecutor's office. Listen, how the criminal justice system holds people accountable is really a matter for the prosecutor's office, and I have absolute confidence in that we share a shared goal in ensuring not only public safety, but holding people responsible that commit crimes like this. And I think going back to the last incident of a mass shooting on Interstate, they were a great partner through that, and they're a great partner in everything we do. You know, we're one small, really small facet of the criminal justice system, but ultimately they're the ones that hold people accountable for the conduct of.
I guess, what was the person arrested on? What are they being held on?
I don't have that here in front of me. Do you have that, Chris?
No.
But we will follow. It will be in the press release that will go out here shortly.
You mentioned you have statistics and data. Can you talk briefly about how many highway shootings you've seen so far in 2024, the last 12 months, and how that compares to previous years?
Being held on assault first degree right now. Yes, I can, in answering your question. Total year to date here in King County, we've had 37 shootings where we've had active investigations. Now, I know some of you have reported some larger numbers, and we do record any report of a shooting, any report of a gun brandishing, and that can be in the hundreds in the same time frame. But where we actually have a victim, where we have witnesses, where we have evidence, bullet holes, et cetera, and we have our CID, or Criminal Investigation Division, actually doing an investigation, we have enough evidence to investigate, we've had 37. To give you a sense of where we were year to date, and by the way, the 37 includes last night, and we're adding the 7 from last night. Year to date last year, we were at 30. So we were tied. 24 hours ago, we were 30 and 30, but now we're at 37. But year to date 2022, we were at 40. So we've actually come down just slightly. But I will just say, 1 is too many. 1 is far too many. And I don't know if I said so in my opening remarks, but you know, we don't want to use terms like we were lucky last night, because right now there are 2 families who have loved ones in critical conditions in 2 different hospitals. There's no luck there. That's a tragedy. And they are dealing with the worst days and nights of their lives. And our hearts go out to them. They have our thoughts and our prayers. But given the violence that we saw last night, and again, we feel like we had 2 spasms of violence, separate violence. Given what we saw, we could have been seeing much higher, a higher level of tragedy than we actually are seeing now. So I don't want to be dismissive at all to the people who are impacted by this. This is as serious a situation as they could possibly be living through. But we could have had multiple fatalities. We could have had significant tragedy on our roads last night beyond the significance of what we did endure. So you never want to say we have good, you know, and these kind of things, there's no good news. There's no good luck. But when you look comparatively, compared to what it could have been, we are relieved that it wasn't as tragic as it could have been. So, other questions?
If I could add
Yes,
one more thing
sure.
to that. So I never want to become so cold to the data that behind every one of these is a victim. We have a person fighting for their life today that shouldn't be fighting for their life today. Behind every one of these is somebody that's life is forever changed because they were victimized through some random act of violence on a freeway that they shouldn't have been experienced to. So I'd never want to become so cold to the data, and the data is important. The data drives a lot of our staffing decisions and enforcement decisions, and where we focus our efforts on. That data is important, but behind that data are families, are victims, and I always want to keep that at the forefront of these discussions, in remembering these people didn't do anything to deserve this. There's just innocent people driving down the freeway, like all of you are going to do likely when you leave here. You're going to likely leave this building, headed back probably to Seattle, I'm guessing, with the expectation you're going to make it without becoming a victim of some random act of violence. And as a society, we've almost become somewhat numb to this, and we should not. We should never become numb to the fact that somebody else believes that they have the right to go perpetrate this level of violence on innocent people that are just trying to get from point A to point B like all of us leaving this building today at some point are going to do the same thing. So, any further questions?
I had one more statistic for you. So I'd said the 37, that's just here for District 2 or King County. Statewide, we've had 87 highway shootings that we have ongoing or have had criminal investigations. And again, those are ones that we actually have evidence. We have victims, we have statements, we have bullet holes, we have shell casings, we have something to investigate. We would be in the thousands, though, when you count all the times that a gunshot is reported, or someone says, I saw someone with a gun in their car. Again, in King County alone, that's in the hundreds across the state. That's in the thousands each year. But we can only investigate when we have actual evidence to investigate.
87 year to date.
87 year to date. And I don't have the years prior to that, but I believe most of you have. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so, I'm sorry. 58 year to date. I was meant corrected. Thank you.
No, you said the 87 statewide.
For 2023.
Oh, okay. So 87, 2023. I'm sorry. 57 year to date. I apologize for that. I'm looking at my chicken scratching here. So 87, 2023 gives you some comparison, and the other is for the year to date here. State. Other questions? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate
it.
Always enjoy
Be
you.
safe.
Always enjoy you. When you talk, you use your hands a lot. And every time you do this, it comes across on the mic. So you might want to just try not to do that. I'm a big hand talker, too.
I'm a big hand talker, sir.
Thank you, sir.
What's that? I heard he was hands. You guys be careful out there.
Thank you. Take care of yourself. Drive safe.
Thanks, sir. What's the magazine limit? Around limit, 10?